On my 31st birthday, I didn't get a call, not a text, not even a happy birthday from my parents or my sister, but I did get a package. Inside was a 49 zero invoice for a luxury SUV I'd never seen before, purchased under my name, for my sister. Apparently, while I was waiting alone in my apartment with a cake I'd bought for myself, my family had forged my signature and bought her a car. No explanation, no apology. Just a note from my sister. "Thanks in advance, love you." That was the moment something snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I picked up the phone, called the bank, and said 7 words that finally set me free. Repossess it. I'm done. They're not family. If you've ever felt like the only one giving, while everyone else just takes this as my story, and maybe it's yours too. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the steady one, the one who never asked for much. My parents praised me for being low maintenance, but now I understand what that really meant. They could ignore me without guilt. When my little sister Chloe was born, everything shifted. She was loud, emotional, always demanding attention, and she got it. I was 8, already making my own breakfast and setting the table while she was learning to scream her way into new toys. Chloe was the golden child, no question. When she failed a math test, it was because school wasn't her thing. When I brought home straight A's, I was told, "Don't get cocky." At 15, Chloe crashed mom's car while texting. She cried, and they bought her a newer model. At 16, I asked for help buying a used laptop for AP classes. They told me to get a job. By the time I graduated high school, I already knew my role. Be the dependable one, the invisible one. My reward? They'd let me be independent. And I was. I put myself through college with scholarships, part-time jobs, and a few nights crying in library cubicles no one else saw. Meanwhile, Chloe bounced between majors, boyfriends, and gap years in self-discovery. My parents funded it all with a smile, even when she maxed out 3 credit cards before 25. They told me she was just finding her path. I was expected to find mine and pave Chloe's at the same time. Even when I started working as a financial consultant in Portland and finally got my own place, the calls never stopped. "Can you help your sister with her rent? Can you Venmo your mom for Chloe's birthday gift? Could you just book the Airbnb for the family trip up front? We'll pay you back." They never did. Still, I held on to some hope that someday they'd see me, appreciate me, maybe even celebrate me, especially on my birthday. But when that day came, and no one showed up, not even with an excuse, and instead, they sent me a bill for a car I didn't buy, it was no longer about being the strong one. It was about realizing they never actually saw me at all. And that truth hurt more than any forgotten cake. After college, I landed a solid job at a mid-sized financial firm in Portland. I rented my own apartment, paid off my student loans early, and built a small emergency fund by cutting out every non-essential expense. No streaming subscriptions, no weekend brunches, no shopping sprees, just quiet stability. To my family, that meant I had extra. They started small. Mom called to say Chloe was between jobs and needed help with rent. It was just 1 month, she said. I sent the check. A month later, it was groceries. Then her credit card bill. Then a temporary loan for a yoga retreat in Costa Rica that Chloe claimed would help her find balance. Each time, I told myself this was the last favor. Each time, they guilted me with the same line. "You're so lucky to be in a good place, honey. Chloe's still struggling." Dad even called once, saying he needed a bridge loan for a can't-miss investment opportunity. I wired the funds. 2 years later, I still don't know what it was. I should have said no. But saying no in my family came with consequences, icy silences, dramatic guilt trips, or worse, being painted as the selfish daughter. Still, I kept giving, kept hoping. Every birthday, I hosted dinner at my own expense. Every Christmas, I gave thoughtful gifts and got regifted candles in return. One year, Chloe forgot my name in the family secret Santa. She laughed it off. My parents said nothing. But I still showed up. That's the thing about being the strong one, people think you don't need anything in return. They assume your silence means you're fine. That your boundaries are flexible. That your bank account is fair game. Last year, Chloe asked me to co-sign for a used car. I said no. Not angrily, not even firmly, just, I can't do that. She didn't talk to me for a month. When she finally reached out, it wasn't to reconnect, it was to ask for help buying Mom a necklace for Mother's Day. You always know what she'll like. I bought the necklace. The truth is, I wasn't just financially drained. I was emotionally bankrupt. But I didn't see it not clearly until the morning of my 31st birthday. When the doorbell rang, and the only thing waiting on the other side was a courier holding a large envelope from a luxury dealership. I wasn't expecting a party. I wasn't even expecting a cake. But a phone call? A happy birthday text? Even a recycled gift from Chloe would have been something. Instead, I opened the door in my pajamas and accepted a stiff, flat envelope from a courier with a forced smile. Signature, please. I stared at the gold letterhead return address. Cascade Lux Motors. A luxury dealership. My stomach sank before I even opened it. Inside was a crisp invoice. 49 72.68 for a brand new BMW X4 Sport, purchased just 5 days earlier. Under purchaser, Chloe Blake. Under co-signer, Samantha Blake. My name, printed in full, beside a signature that looked eerily like mine, but wasn't. The lease agreement was stapled neatly behind it, along with the financing plan. Monthly payment, $127. Due date, 2 weeks from now. I sank onto my couch, numb. I reread the paperwork, hoping I'd misunderstood something. Then I saw a handwritten sticky note attached to the corner of the agreement. Thanks for helping me out, Sam. It's just a signature. You're the best. Love you, Oxo, Chloe. That's when the shaking started. The worst part wasn't the forged signature. It wasn't the assumption I'd pay for a car I never agreed to. It was the entitlement. The casual betrayal, wrapped in sparkly handwriting and a heart at the bottom of her name. They had done this. On my birthday. I checked my phone. Nothing from Mom. Nothing from Dad. Chloe had sent a voice note, 14 seconds. Hey Yi, I hope you're having a good one. But the dealership might have sent over some stuff. Don't stress. I figured you'd say yes eventually anyway. Let me know if the tires are too sporty, we can swap them. Mua. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up and walked to the window. Portland rain tapped against the glass like some kind of slow, mocking applause. In the silence of my apartment, surrounded by a pile of unopened birthday cards from clients and coworkers, the only people who remembered something snapped. I realized it wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't carelessness. It was calculated. They skipped my birthday because they already took what they needed from me. And they thought I'd smile and say thank you. I stared at the invoice again, willing it to disappear. Then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, her tone light and sugary. Happy birthday, sweetheart. We were just about to call. How's your day going? Not a trace of irony. I cut straight to it. Did you co-sign a 49-0 loan for Chloe using my name? A pause. Then, casually. Oh, that. Yes, Chloe mentioned you might overreact. It's not a big deal, Sam. You make good money. My pulse spiked. You forged my signature. That's fraud. She sighed, like I was the difficult one. We knew you'd get dramatic. We were going to tell you it's just. Chloe really needed that car. Her old one completely died. You know how unreliable public transit is. You know what else is unreliable? People who commit identity fraud, I snapped. Her voice sharpened. Don't make this about you. Chloe has been going through a lot, and you've always said you want her to succeed, haven't you? Well, this is part of that. I nearly laughed. This was how they framed it, as if it were generosity, not theft. She doesn't have a job, I said. How's she going to make payments on a 50-0 BMW? She has interviews lined up, Mom said quickly. She needs to project success, Samantha. You, of all people, should understand appearances matter. My mouth went dry. This wasn't just denial, this was delusion. I'm not paying for this, I said quietly. You already did, she replied calmly. It's in your name. You'll ruin your own credit if you cause a scene. There it was. The threat beneath the sugar. I hung up. Seconds later, my phone buzzed, Chloe calling. I let it ring. Then the texts started. Why are you making this a thing? Mom said you were cool with it. It's just a signature. Can't believe you're flipping out on your birthday, lol. And finally, if you ruin this for me, don't expect me to ever speak to you again. I sat in silence, the phone glowing with messages I didn't read. I thought of every time I'd swallowed my own anger for the sake of keeping peace. Every time I let them take from me my time, my money, my energy. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a final test. And for the first time, I wasn't going to pass it. The next morning, I woke up early. I hadn't slept much. My mind was looping forged signature, the car loan, Mom's tone, Chloe's texts. It wasn't just betrayal, it was audacity, arrogance. I made coffee with shaking hands, sat on the edge of my couch, and stared at the invoice again. No apology, no explanation, no respect. And suddenly, everything felt clear. Crystal clear. I picked up my phone and called Cascade Lux Motors, the number listed at the top of the contract. After a short wait, I was transferred to their finance manager. Hi, this is Robert Lewis. How can I assist you today? My name is Samantha Blake, I said. Someone forged my signature on a car loan, and I'd like to report it. A beat of silence. You're listed as the co-signer on the X4 Sport? I never signed anything. That's not my signature. Understood, he said, and his voice changed businesslike. Careful. We take these matters seriously. I'll transfer you to our fraud department immediately. Within minutes, I was speaking with a fraud investigator. I gave them everything: invoice number, VIN, Chloe's name, my mother's involvement, screenshots of the note and texts. Would you like to initiate repossession? She asked. I paused. Not because I was uncertain, but because I wanted to feel the moment. To make it real. Then I said, calmly and clearly, yes, repossess the vehicle. I'm done. The words didn't just leave my mouth. They left my body. Like a toxin expelled. Understood. You'll receive written confirmation shortly. We'll remove your name from all financial liability once the fraud is verified and the vehicle is recovered. When I hung up, I felt weightless. But the silence didn't last. 15 minutes later, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Chloe, did you seriously just report the car? What is wrong with you? Mom, what you've done is beyond cruel. Chloe needs that car. Dad, for the first time in months. Grow up, Samantha. Family doesn't take each other to war over a damn vehicle. And then Chloe again, unhinged. They're at the mall right now looking for the car. You are such a bitter, lonely bitch. I blocked them all, one by one. Then, just to be safe, I logged into my bank account. And there it was. A failed login attempt from an unrecognized device. Security held. But they'd tried. Even after stealing my name, they still wanted my money. I changed every password, set two-factor authentication, froze my credit. Then I closed my laptop, leaned back in my chair, and stared at the ceiling. What I felt wasn't just anger. It was something sharper, stronger. Clarity. For years, I had been trying to earn a place in a family that only saw me as a utility. I thought love would come if I just gave enough. But love that needs proof is not love. And I was done trying to earn it. By the time I got back from my evening run, the storm had fully hit. Voicemails. Dozens of them. From my mother, my father, even extended relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. They all sang the same song. What you did was extreme. You humiliated Chloe. You've always been so cold, Samantha. The most theatrical came from Aunt Rachel, my mom's sister, who'd once said I was too intense to be lovable. You didn't just take her car, you took away her dignity. And on your birthday? That's twisted. I deleted it without finishing. But what rattled me wasn't what they said, it was how coordinated it all felt. They were circling the wagons, protecting their golden girl. That night, Chloe went full social media victim mode. She posted a tearful selfie from a parking lot with the caption, "When your own sister has your car repossessed because she can't stand to see you happy on, toxic family, some people are just jealous." Within an hour, the comment section was full of sympathy from people who had no idea what really happened. One even wrote, "Samantha Blake is a monster. I hope karma finds her." And just like that, I was cast as the villain in a drama I didn't write, one I never even auditioned for. I could have fought back, posted screenshots, emails, proof. But I didn't. Because the old me would have needed the world to see I was right. The new me? She didn't care. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And peace didn't require proof. It just required distance. So I deactivated my social accounts. I blocked every number that had called me to scold, shame, or guilt trip. I unfollowed every cousin, aunt, and family friend who treated me like a villain for protecting myself. Then I lit a candle, poured a glass of wine, and sat quietly on my balcony. The city below moved on, unaware that something monumental had just happened. I hadn't just said no to a car loan. I had said no to a lifetime of emotional debt. And for the first time in decades, I didn't feel alone. I felt free. The silence that followed was unnerving and beautiful. No pings. No guilt-laced texts. No demands for money dressed up as affection. I spent the next few days doing something I hadn't done in years. Nothing for anyone else. I went to work, took walks without checking my phone, and actually tasted my morning coffee instead of gulping it between obligations. And then, something unexpected happened. My friend Alana, who I hadn't seen in months, called. "Hey, I know birthdays are weird sometimes, but I wanted to drop off something small." An hour later, she showed up with cupcakes and a birthday card that simply read, "You are not hard to love." That one sentence broke me. I didn't realize how much I needed someone, anyone, to say it. To say I wasn't the problem. That setting boundaries didn't make me cruel. That night, I sat with Alana and her boyfriend on their porch. We ate cupcakes, laughed about bad Tinder dates, and watched their dog bark at squirrels like it was his full-time job. It wasn't grand, but it was real. And I realized, this not the cold silence of my childhood home, not the designer handbags passed off as love, this was family. The kind that asks how you're doing and means it. The kind that never makes you pay for love with your bank account. A few days later, I got an email from Chloe. No subject line. No greeting. Just, "I hope you're happy. You ruined everything." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because, for once, I didn't owe her an explanation. I had spent my entire life explaining myself. Explaining why I said no. Why I drew the line. Why I wasn't enough for them, no matter how much I gave. But I was done justifying my existence. Let them gossip. Let them spin stories. I wasn't living for their version of me anymore. I was living for the version that had finally stood up and said, "Enough." And honestly, she was someone I was proud to know. A week after the repossession, the dealership confirmed. The vehicle had been recovered. My name was cleared. The loan removed from my credit report. No legal charges were pressed, though they had every right to. I felt like I'd closed a chapter I hadn't realized was destroying me. But healing wasn't linear. The next morning, I walked past a flower shop and saw a daughter hugging her mom. They were picking out sunflowers, my mother's favorite. I froze. Grief showed up quietly, not with sobs, but with the ache of what could have been. And then came the guilt. The reflex. Should I have tried harder? Reached out? Let it go? But I didn't spiral this time. Because I had proof, undeniable proof, that love isn't real when it comes at the cost of your dignity. And family isn't family if it demands silence in exchange for belonging. That afternoon, I met with my therapist, Dr. Patel. She asked me one question. If your best friend had lived through what you did, what would you tell her? And I said, without hesitation, I'd tell her she was brave for walking away. I'd tell her she didn't ruin anything. She just stopped pretending it was whole. Dr. Patel nodded. Then offer that same compassion to yourself. So I did. I forgave myself for not leaving sooner. I let go of the shame they'd sewn into my skin. And I began building something better. I started hosting Sunday dinners, not for blood relatives, but for the people who showed up without expectations. Alana, her boyfriend, my neighbor Elias, who lent me a screwdriver once and never stopped checking in. No designer plates, no stage smiles. Just good food, real laughter. Connection, not control. And every year since, on my birthday, they show up. With messy cupcakes, off-key singing, and not once has anyone asked me for money. This year, I got a card that read, "You taught us that choosing peace is powerful. Happy birthday to the woman who finally chose herself." I still have that envelope from the dealership. Not out of bitterness, but as a reminder. Of the day I stopped giving to be loved. Of the moment I called the bank and said 7 words that changed my life. Repossess it. I'm done. They're not family. Because family isn't who shares your DNA. It's who shares your table with respect, with warmth, and without conditions. And on that birthday, for the first time ever, I felt truly celebrated.